Good evening. Today I want to start by telling you a little bit about myself and my story and why I fight climate change as a young person before going into legislative advocacy and how we can really influence our legislatures to make a difference. So when I was 5 years old, my parents read me a true story about a whale named Ibis. And in the story, Ibis got caught in a fishing net, but she was very lucky and she got rescued. And at 5 years old, I loved that story. So I asked my parents to read me the author's note, and the author's note said that most whales don't get freed. They die. And for me, that was really upsetting. So I started crying and whining, and I did that for like 3 days until my dad couldn't take it anymore and was like, well, if you don't like something, then do something about it. So I did. I started working to protect whales. And I spent a lot of the last 10 years of my life working on that and working on ocean conservation and protecting whales. But then in October of 2018, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a report, and I'm going to summarize it really briefly. So it said that we need to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, that 2 degrees Celsius of warming would be catastrophic, and that we have 12 years to accomplish these goals. And for me, that was a really big wake-up call, because now we're down to 11 years, and in 11 years, I'll be 26, my sister will be 24, and I still want a safe future for us and for the rest of our generation at that time. So for me, this report really brought home the urgency of climate change. So I started taking action. I started speaking at events like this and working on legislative advocacy. So this summer, I got involved with helping plan the September 20th Hartford climate strike. And this strike brought 1,500 Connecticut residents to the state capitol in Hartford to demand immediate and drastic action from our politicians. We had speeches on a variety of issues, and then we delivered a resolution to the governor's office. So we had specific asks for the day, and our main one was that the governor declare a climate emergency for the state of Connecticut. But we did not want this to be something that he could hide behind. We didn't want it to be like, okay, I declared a climate emergency, like we're all set. We want to see real action from our political leaders. So I'm going to go through the other asks that we had that are really kind of the substance of what we were asking for. So the first one is that Connecticut end climate polluting emissions on or before December 31st, 2030. And I realize this seems very ambitious, and it is. But we're at the point with climate change where we need to take ambitious steps, and we need to take big steps. Okay, so Leticia already talked about this, but Connecticut expand energy efficiency programs in Connecticut. So this is really important because if we want to stop, climate polluting emissions, we have to use energy efficiency. Otherwise, we will not get there. We also want Connecticut to cease permitting new or existing fossil fuel infrastructure because it doesn't make sense to be building new fossil fuel power plants if we're trying to switch to renewable energy. We also want Connecticut to divest from fossil fuels because it doesn't make sense that we're trying to move away from fossil fuels, but we still have money in them. It doesn't make logical sense. And then I'm going to go through these a little bit quicker. So Connecticut work with organizations on job creation, environmental justice, and public health and a just transition. We want the governor to call a special session for the state of Connecticut, or the state legislature, to focus on emergency climate legislation. And then this one is really important to me, which is that Connecticut ensure climate education to all public school children in Connecticut. Some schools right now have climate education and some don't, and that's really not fair because all children in Connecticut and around the world should be getting this education on climate change, especially because they're the ones who are going to grow up feeling the effects of it the most. So moving forward, I want to talk a little bit about different things that we can do moving forward to influence legislation. So on December 6th, there's going to be another youth climate strike. And at this event, we really want to show our political leaders, one, that we're still here and that we're still demanding drastic climate action, but also we want to really make it a way to mobilize people and to mobilize young people and get them excited about taking action so that moving into this legislative session, we can go together to the Capitol and lobby our political leaders for climate action. So after this, probably sometime in January, we'll be holding a pre-lobby day educational event. And at this event, we're going to really teach people how to effectively lobby your legislature. Because this is something, it seems intimidating at first. I was unsure, I didn't even know how to call them, what do I say? But once you really get into it, it's not that difficult. So we really want to teach people how to lobby, but then also what are our specific asks and what's the facts behind them. So the session this year starts in February. So at some point in February, we will be having an environmental lobby day at the Capitol. And we'll be coming together with Connecticut residents from all over the state to lobby on 3 specific issues. So first, no new fossil fuel expansion. Expanding energy efficiency and transitioning to renewable energy. And third, climate education. So I want to go a little bit deeper into the 3 of these and why Leticia and I were working on this and why we chose these 3 specific things. So no new fossil fuel expansion. Right now there is a proposed power plant for Killingly, Connecticut, and if built, this power plant would represent 5% of Connecticut's carbon dioxide emissions. And to me, this just doesn't make sense. Why are we continuing to build new fossil fuel power plants when we already know that this is having such a negative effect on our environment? So that's number 1. Number 2 is expanding energy efficiency and renewable energy. So if we want to stop building power plants and if we want to transition to renewable energy, we need to implement energy efficiency. So you want to make sure we expand this and really make sure that everybody has access and knows about it as well. And then climate education. And I kind of already talked about this, but just ensuring that everybody in Connecticut and all the school children have access to this. And then also, just children are the ones who are growing up with this. They have the right to know about it. So to me, that's really important. If you have any questions about, these asks or, any of the other stuff I talked about, I would be happy to answer them. Thank you.